illustration is great, but it doesn't always necessarily mean that your name is known for the thing that you did, because a lot of it's commercial or food and beverages and apparel and all that stuff. Whereas with the murals, your name's attached to it. So it's kind of like, well, each thing that I do feeds into the next one.
The voice you just heard is Kelly Spencer, also known as Kell Sunshine. Kell Sunshine is a muralist, lettering artist, and illustrator from the east coast of Aotearoa, New Zealand. She's deeply inspired by the interconnectedness of all living beings, and her work is a celebration of this bond. Kell's distinctive creative style features vibrant, retro-inspired colour palettes and flowing, curvaceous forms. Her murals often centre around soil-sorceress protagonists, characters that embody the earth's wisdom and magic. The underlying themes of her murals and illustrations highlight ecological awareness with the aim of inspiring viewers to share her reverence for the natural world. I have been a huge fan of Kelly since I started as a hand lettering and typography artist myself. Was always inspired by her work, and so getting to talk to her today was really fun, exciting, and I was so excited to hear about how things had evolved since I started following her so many years ago. In this episode, you are going to learn how to get started with murals if you want to start painting big, the power of following your interests, why good quality images of your work are so important, how to stay motivated and inspired as an artist for so long, why connecting and collaborating is so key to creative business, and so much more. So if you are ready to get started, let's dive in and hear from Kell Sunshine. Okay, welcome to the show, Kelly. I'm so happy that you are here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Okay, well, we were just chatting before about the fact that you and I have been in each other's online circles for a long time. So for the people who haven't heard of you before and don't know that much about you, can you tell us a little bit about how your business started and how you started getting into hand lettering and illustration, all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this all started about maybe 17 years ago, at a guess. I had always been creative, but hadn't grown up in an era where it was super encouraged to pursue art as a career. The 90s were a different time than what they are now. And so sometime in my early 20s, it kind of came to my attention that illustration was this thing that people overseas were doing. And I was traveling at the time. I was in Central America, and the thing is, it was never exclusively that I wanted to pursue art as a career.
Right.
It was that I wanted to pursue traveling, and art was a way to enable that. So that was kind of this pivotal moment where the two things combined. Was like, hey, okay, I can do this travel thing if I'm freelance.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm just going to decide that I'm a freelance designer now. So it stemmed from that, but the two kind of happened at the same time. So it was pretty fluid. It seemed that way, at least. I initially got into graphic design and illustration, and I lived in Wellington at the time. So there was a lot of work available for gigs and theatre productions and all sorts of cool Wellington stuff. And that evolved. The illustration really started to pursue hand lettering, as seemingly fortuitously people got really into hand lettering at the same time that I realized that lettering was a skill set in its own. It had just been something I'd always done. I didn't know it was a thing. So I just like drawing the letters because they look better than the typeface. Got into that. That led on to doing sign painting kind of on the side, and then all of these things culminated in murals, probably 7 or 8 years ago. I was like, cool, this is all really fun, but what's more fun is doing it really big.
Yeah.
And that's what I do now. I no longer do graphic design, but I'm still doing. My work's kind of it bridges illustration and murals, and then typography is the thing that kind of crosses both worlds.
Yeah, amazing. I love that, like, what you love to do, which is creating and designing and illustrating and hand lettering, enables you to do something else that you really love, which is traveling, and like the combination of those is so perfect. And I love that. So did you, like, did you go to school for illustration or design or anything like that? Did you just learn by yourself? Like, tell me how you got better as an illustrator and an hand lettering artist.
Yeah, I do not have a university degree in any of this. I did when I first moved to Wellington forever ago, I did a 6-month course through Welltech. It was something like digital something. I can't even remember what it was called.
Yeah.
Essentially, for me, that was like an accountability thing, because I was moving to Wellies. I was like, cool, I'm moving to the city. I want to pursue this illustration thing. And I signed up for the course to like get a bit of a better idea about the Adobe suite, really. But also just like something to hold me there, make me accountable, and kind of like a push to start from. So yeah, I learned some of the digital stuff there, and it gave me that sort of kick in the butt that pushed things. But the rest of it I just made up.
I love that.
It's like learning by doing and hoping for the best.
Yeah. And I mean, it's obviously worked. So that's great. And I mean, like, I think now, especially a lot of artists, I think earlier it was probably more of a traditional thing to like go to school, go to design school or art school or whatever. But now, like, there's so much you can learn just from, like you said, doing, or like online things, learning from your peers. Like, all of that stuff can help you get better practice, like, improve what you want to do. Okay, so then how did you get your first mural? Because I'm sure there are a lot of like illustrators, hand lettering people listening who are like, I want to paint big. How do I go big? How did that happen?
Yeah. The first mural, it depends on what scale. So like early on I would do, those chorus boxes that I think local councils run it. That was kind of like maybe where I started dabbling with paid commercial murals. They're kind of just a big canvas.
Yeah, for anybody listening who isn't maybe from New Zealand and doesn't know, they're like a power box. And you'd see them just on the side of the street, and they started working with artists to get them to actually look nice.
They're about 2 meters square or something.
Yeah.
That was one of the things I did early. I also, I was lucky to share a studio with a bunch of friends, and I would get my friend Sean to take me out painting, because he'd been doing street art since forever. And I was like, what are you doing? That looks fun. Take me out, show me the ways. But I think more worth noting in this context is the first quite large scale one that I did. It was a self-initiated project. So I'd been lucky enough to just paint at Sea Walls Festival in Napier. And that was, I think, 12 by 4 meters. And I remember saying to Ben Sinzer, who organised the festival, I was like, oh my God, it's so big. And he's like, it's fine, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And straight after that, I was just frothing to do more. And there was this site down at the marina in Wellington that was a big plain white wall. And I got in touch with the arts lead at council and said, what can I do here? Like, this is your wall. I want to paint it. She was really amazing. Katie, she probably still works in that role. And it's like, yeah, you should do it. And you're not doing it for free. So we're going to get some funding. I was like, yes, of course, yes, funding. And I'm just like, let me paint the wall. We went down that route and did it all properly. And that, so as far as like people getting into their first walls, self-initiated projects are a great way of doing it, because you don't have to wait for somebody else to ask you to paint it. And, that was maybe a lucky site, because it was council owned and it was empty, and I was able to do something relevant. It's a Maui dolphin, which is a native New Zealand dolphin that's quite endangered for anyone that's not from New Zealand. And that was amazing. And I still love that piece. I still feel really good about that piece, because it was like, this is mine. This is me being so excited about doing this large scale work and getting it done.
Yeah, and love that you were like, I want to do this. How do I do this? And just went out and like asked questions and made it happen. That's amazing.
Just ask.
Yeah. Is that something? Do you still do that? Like reach out when you see a spot, reach out and say, can I do that?
Not as much as I'd like to. It's something that I fantasize about doing, because I do, you end up with blank wall vision, so you can see cool sights everywhere. But the reality is it usually just there's always client work that's needing to be done. So that stuff often gets put by the wayside. Yeah. For example, there's a wall here. So I live on the East Coast now, which is where I grew up. 4 years ago, I found this wall, and it was not far from where I used to walk when I was a kid. And I had this weird memory of, I used to have this recurring dream of this walkway being a magical portal to another jungle world. Never forgotten it. Never knew if it was real or not. Found the walkway again, and there's this wall there that I really want to paint. So I got permission, and I still haven't done it, and that was 4 years ago. So, yeah.
Hey, well, at least you've got the permission, so.
I think they're chill. I think they're like,
maybe
just
one day you can go back there.
Yeah. Like, cool.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Maybe this decade.
Yeah. Well, we will look forward to seeing if and when you get to that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so like you said, you're busy with lots of client work now. So, I've seen some examples of things that you have worked on, are things like print ads, jigsaw collaborations, t-shirts, like store fit outs. I saw you had I think it was Bailey Nelson, or it looked like Bailey Nelson, things like that. So how has that side of your business kind of evolved? How do you get those client projects? Yeah, tell me about that side of things.
I know it's not the answer everyone wants to hear, but the magical world of word of mouth is how I've always got my work. I ended up putting a form eventually on my website with a column that asks, how did you hear about me? Because I was so curious after so many years. And some of it actually is Google search, and some of it is Instagram, of course. But a lot of it, we live in New Zealand. It's a tiny village of a country. So,
yes.
Yeah, a lot of that client work has always come through word of mouth. Somebody knows somebody and has passed it on.
That's amazing. Yeah. Is there anything that you do or have done to like encourage that more, or does it just naturally happen?
I'd like to say yes. I hear of people doing outreach, and that sounds like a really great idea. I think I've tried a couple of times. I don't know if anything's come into fruition. Yeah, it's just, staying visible seems to help. And we have everybody's favorite platform to do that on. It's like, hey, I'm still here making stuff. Yeah. Yell about it for a minute.
Yeah.
Yay. But murals, I sort of see murals as each piece is kind of a business card for the next one. So, illustration is great, but it doesn't always necessarily mean that your name is known for the thing that you did, because a lot of it's commercial, or, as you say, like food and beverages and apparel and all that stuff. Whereas with the murals, your name's attached to it. So it's kind of like, well, each thing that I do feeds into the next one.
Yeah, I noticed that one thing that you do really well on social media and on your website is that you have great photos of like when you do a mural or any of your work has great photos. You take videos of things. Like how important is that? How has that helped by having like good quality images of your work, especially if it's going to be like the business card for the next one?
Yeah, that's always been really important to me, and part of the reason why I don't fully hate using Instagram, because I grew up around photography. My mum and dad were into photography when I was little. We had this cool photography studio in the house, which I wasn't old enough to use before it was gone. But I've always documented everything since I was a little kid. Like I remember Mum letting my brother and I have our first reel of film, which we absolutely wasted on God knows what. But it's really instinctive to me to take nice photos of things. And so I still have like a lovely DSLR camera that if there's not a professional photographer around, I will still make sure that I get as many nice photos of my work as possible. yeah, I want to see it presented in the best way that it can be presented, I guess. My phone doesn't, it's not good enough. I tried getting a fancier iPhone some years ago, but it's still not fancy enough.
Yeah.
It never will be. Give up. Yeah, and now, there is for sure a part of feeding the algorithm, dragging what it likes to snack on. And so whilst I'm painting, I will capture the little videos of the brush strokes that people really enjoy watching, those big, long, fat brush strokes.
Yeah, like satisfying, clean strokes. So nice. Yeah.
But I love making them as well. So it's not a tough payoff to capture that stuff. I'm like, kind of drooling while I'm painting at my stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, and I should video this too, which doesn't help the brush strokes stay any straighter, but
yeah.
Extra little challenge, try and hold the phone up whilst you're making the brush strokes. But yeah, I enjoy capturing that stuff, and I think it does pay off as far as marketing goes to have
definitely.
things shown the best they can be.
Yeah, and it I think people stress about having like the perfect feed or like it, looking a certain way or whatever, or like doing graphics or anything, but in just having good quality photographs or good quality videos even, it allows those to just like speak for themselves. Like, if anybody listening like goes and looks at Kelly's Instagram, there's not like, all these intense design graphics or like anything like that. It's literally just good quality images, videos of your work, and that speaks for itself. So I think it definitely is a good strategy, a good approach.
Yeah, cool. That's nice to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome. So other than social media, and obviously you've said word of mouth is a huge thing, are there any things you've done outside of social media to market your business or make those connections, or like, any just other things that have worked well for you outside of social media?
Other than existing for a long time, no.
Yeah.
There's really not. Yeah. I wish I could give some hot tips on secrets behind the scenes, but it's just existing. I mean, I'm relatively extroverted, mostly, not always, but being present, knowing people, like I by no means would call it networking. Can't even remember the word for it. But for sure, all those years in Wellington helped. Like, I was going to gigs. I knew a lot of people that were in the entertainment scene, and therefore people that are in the hospitality scene. And so a lot of early work came in through those avenues. Time and a place, right? Like, I don't think it would have been as easy if I had been here on the East Coast back then. I think being in the city did help for those early years. However, that doesn't mean that that's relevant advice now, because the internet wasn't what it was then. And it's just a different world. It's a whole different world. I don't know what it would be like to get started now. It looks like perhaps it's easier, but it also looks like perhaps it's harder because there's so much noise.
Yeah, I think definitely swings and roundabouts to both.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed though as well on like your social media and everything, to do with that, like not networking, but it seems like you collaborate with lots of people, right? Like even you're doing a mural, there's like other people helping you paint, or like you're tagging all these other people in things you're working on. So even if someone's, getting started now and they're not necessarily like networking or anything like that, but just like connecting, collaborating, involving other people, all of that seems to be helpful.
It's what being human is all about. It's just that connection with other people, And there's always, in every project, there's so many people that are behind it that have been instrumental in some way. On a festival, that's a lot of people who are like absolutely looking after artists, looking after finances, looking after materials and access equipment and all that. But even on the commercial jobs, there's always, like a community of people, not just the client, that has sort of been instrumental. And I think like the one that you would have seen recently was one that we did in Featherston just a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, where it was full, like, community get involved, kind of paint by numbers, like,
yeah,
got all the outlines up, and then we invited anyone who wanted to paint to come and paint. And that, like, that's so fun. It's hectic because next time I think we'll work to have more volunteers on hand to help. But yeah, it's like, well, you want a colour, okay, and you want a colour, okay, and you are 5 years old, and here's how you use a paintbrush, and like, it was full on, but it got done, and it's delightful. Watching other people who don't always get to hold a brush and put paint on a wall, and being allowed to do it, not getting growled at, like, that's a really specific kind of joy, is seeing other people have that experience.
Yeah, that's really fun. I love that. Like, yeah, just, inviting people to come along is really fun. And another thing that I guess ties into that is that you're also part of, I don't know what you call it, a group, a collective called the League of Live Illustrators, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about that and, like, working with a group of other illustrators.
Yeah. Lolly, we call it Lolly.
Okay,
That's an acronym.
Yeah.
Is a magical little beast that seemingly happened by accident. We're in our 10th year now.
Wow.
So what Lolly does is we go to conferences and events and hui around New Zealand, and we capture conversations live through illustration. So it kind of stems from, what do you call it, graphic facilitation, where people are doing those kind of quick fire illustrations and portraits with text. But it's a little bit different from that, wherein we're doing quite a lot of synthesis to really, like, pull out what the gems are of the conversation and turn it into a full illustration that we then give back to the attendees and the presenters, and people are able to see their voices heard, and they're also able to, like, look at the conversation from, like a kind of, synthesize is still the right word, perspective that is also our perspective. So, like, it's not, we're able to sit slightly outside and go, hey, here's what you guys are talking about, here's what's important. And it just works. It just works really well, because most humans don't want to read words. They don't want to read notes.
Yeah.
That's boring. So we started doing it at a couple of conferences 10 years ago, and it took off. Same deal. People that go to conferences organize conferences. So for Lolly, again, we've just been incredibly fortunate that people have loved what we're doing. It's really resonated with people.
Yeah.
We get the most beautiful conversations with attendees afterwards who are just like, hey, wow, thank you. Like, thank you for hearing me, and thank you for doing this beautiful thing that, like, makes a conference more exciting to go to. And yeah, so we're a group of 5 friends. We're essentially siblings at this point. And we're incredibly lucky to get to work together, and we hope that we get to keep doing it for many years to come. We're doing a few 10th anniversary celebrations at the moment.
Yeah, it must be, that's very cool to, like, because I think being an artist sometimes can be a little bit, like, lonely or isolating, like, or being a freelancer in general, like, you're working on your own. So to have something like that where not all the time, but every now and again you're working with a group of your friends or, like, people that you love to collaborate with is really fun and really nice.
Yeah, we're so lucky, and we know it. And we make sure we get, like, some deep hang times that are not just business once a year.
That's good. That's
least.
Important. Yeah. Okay, so we've talked, like, a lot about your, like, marketing and all that sort of stuff. I'd love to just quickly go over your visual identity, because we haven't really talked about that. And obviously now you have, like, your branding is mostly your work, doing the work of your brand. We also have a really beautiful hand-lettered logo, which obviously ties into your expertise.
Kind of.
So how has it's your beautiful name written out. So how has that developed, changed over time? Have you done any specific work on it? Yeah, tell me about your visuals.
Visuals, yes. So, and I remember when I was younger feeling like I didn't have a particular style, and then over time more and more people said like, what are you talking about? Of course you do. You totally got a style.
Yeah.
And I was able to take a step back and go, oh, okay, cool, great. Then good to go. For me, my work's always been about speaking for the natural environment. So that's all of the species that are not humans that support this world that we have the privilege of living in. So that's plants and animals and everything else around them. That is my brand. Like, these are the things that I care deeply about. It's really important to me to use my work as a voice for encouraging people to acknowledge our place within this diverse, beautiful system, within this planet that we are sharing with a bunch of other species. And so, I'm not somebody that has, yes, you call it a logo, but I handwrote my name. I was like, years ago, I was like, that will do, because otherwise I'll never have a logo.
Yeah. Because
I'm into lettering, so I'd have to change it every 6 months, which is not good branding. But that in itself, like, the things that I care deeply about is my art. And so it's not able to be separated. But that's what I do, and that's how people know my work, and that's what it's known for. And it's always in I absolutely love colour, so it's always these lush colour palettes that really speak to people as well, it turns out, which I'm grateful for, because choosing the colours is like, it takes me almost as long as it does to do the design, because I'm absolutely obsessive about it. Just every tiny little shade needs to be bang on. Yeah, what else can I say about that? It's been a really interesting evolution where, I find it interesting, where I used to always be painting about animals when I was younger, and then I went to this deep sort of ocean phase where everything was very ocean related, and then as of the last 5 years, it's become really focused on land-based plants. I moved home to the East Coast. I built a veggie garden. Now I'm painting about freaking vegetables. And it's like, oh my God, how far is this going to go? And as of the last couple of months, I've become really interested in drawing seeds. And I really want to see how far I can dig into this, like, the seed era. I'm calling it my seed era. So I feel like things are like cracking open, and I want to really dig deep into the galaxy that exists within seeds, because they're freaking insane. Like, some of the formations that plant seeds take on is so interesting. They're so intricate, and they're the weirdest, kookiest shapes. I don't know what happens after I do the seed thing, because it feels like then it's just gonna be like an esoteric weird shit that's intangible, and hey, we'll figure that out when we get there. I'm finding it interesting.
And that's like the cool thing about being an artist, right, is like you have the freedom to follow what you're interested in and what you're passionate about, obviously outside of like client work probably, but like that's fun to just let yourself be like, I'm into seeds right now. I want to explore seeds. Let me just do that and not...
Totally. Yeah, and hopefully people want to come on that ride.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I also like everything you said about, the things that you care about and are passionate about being your brand. Like, that makes so much sense, because like a brand is what people know you for and what people think of when they think of you and think of your work. And so for you, it's obviously like, that connection to animals and plants and nature, as well as like the actual visual style of your work. And so those things come together to make the Kell Sunshine brand, which is amazing. I love it. Yeah. Okay, I have one more question and then my last question. So you've obviously, as you said, been doing this like 17 years now overall, thereabouts. How do you kind of keep inspired, keep motivated, keep going because, you know, some people it feels like they want to give up or it's hard or like all those things. How do you keep going? How do you keep inspired and motivated?
By moving.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's more important than, obviously some people have more of a tolerance for transience than others, and it's not necessarily nourishing for all, but transience doesn't need to take on the form of travel. It can be just keeping energy moving. And so I kind of avoid structure, for better or worse. I don't know if that serves me or not, but that's how it is.
Yeah.
Because then I can't stagnate. And so, you know, this reason why I love travel so much, although it's quite hard for my heart these days because of carbon. But the reason I love travel is because I know that keeps me alive, and I know that variation is going to keep like the fire burning inside me. And as long as that fire is well stoked, then creativity can come. It's not necessarily that I'm out looking for things to draw, although that is often the case. But it's movement, and it's just allowing things to change and evolve and creating a environment within myself for that change to be able to happen so they can grow.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because I am not necessarily in the same way of like I do love to travel, but I haven't traveled that much. But even in like my everyday, just like moving where I'm working. So like if I've been working at home in my office forever, going and like working at the library or going on a walk or like going to a gallery or like anything that's not the same place in the same way all the time helps to kind of break that cycle and, like you said, kind of move that energy around. So I think there's probably like a scale of movement. Like, do you need to just like go outside and touch grass or like do something else, or do you need to go like move countries? Who knows? But somewhere in there is some helpful
exactly yeah, and it's something different for everybody, but I think it is important for all of us. Change is good, change is healthy. It doesn't have to be monumental.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I love that so much. So I don't know if we're going to get any more incredible magic than that, but what would you say is the biggest lesson that you have learned about branding your passion?
Yeah, I think it's probably a cliche, and it's probably a cliche for a reason, but being your own voice, it's kind of the only way to be good at being a human, and it's kind of the only way to be good at being an artist is to not try and be someone else's voice. And that's freaking hard these days, especially, like I said, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of information available, but always trying to come back home to that. Okay, no, yes, their work's awesome. Yes, I'd like to draw like that, but I don't. I draw like I draw.
Yes.
And just trying to always kind of lean back into your own voice. I'm sure that you've had so many other guests say the same thing for good reason. It's just working out what is important to you and doing that. And that's when I feel the most balanced. Like the pendulum swinging in the middle there. It's like, okay, this is me, this is what's important. And then you're fueled by that, and your best work will hopefully come out. Not always, though. Sometimes it's just shit.
Yeah, but that's part of the process too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. That is incredible. And like, even if people have said that before, like, it's amazing to hear how you have felt that and how it's impacted you. And also it's just a good reminder always of like, if you felt yourself maybe feeling like you need to do a certain thing or like following what other people are doing, it's a good reminder, like you said, to like bring that pendulum back to the center and like refocus on like, who am I and how do I share my voice? So definitely a great reminder. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me and for sharing your story and your wisdom with everybody. I'm going to leave all your links in the show notes and everything, but is there anything in particular you want people to go check out, or anywhere you want to send people?
Thanks, Holly. Things to check out. No, the usual, the Instagram and the website, they'll be linked here. That's where you can see everything that's happening. And yeah, I'm looking forward to a few murals coming up in the upcoming months once we get through this cold patch. And so, yeah, look out for those.
Cool. Okay, well, yeah, everybody go check it out. And it's really fun to see like what next collaboration you've been working on, or like, you know, things that come out. So definitely go follow. Okay, thank you so much. Let's wrap it up and we'll see everybody in the next one.
Thanks, Holly. This has been great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Brand Your Passion. If you enjoyed this one, it would mean the world to me if you could share it on social media and make sure to tag me at Maker and Moxie so that I can see and share it too. It really does help to get the show out there, which means that we can all work towards that Maker and Moxie vision of making the world a more creative place, one brand at a time. Thanks so much in advance, and I will talk to you in the next one. Until then, keep creating.